Have you ever wondered if a book, written over 1,400 years ago, could hold knowledge about events that would unfold centuries later? Could an ancient text accurately predict historical shifts, scientific discoveries, and monumental changes in the world? The Quran, the final revelation from Allah, is not just a book of guidance, but a miracle in itself, filled with profound wisdom and prophecies that have come true in ways that continue to astonish believers and skeptics alike. Unlike vague predictions that can be twisted to fit any scenario, the Quran contains specific, detailed prophecies that defy human knowledge and historical probabilities. From the rise and fall of empires to scientific facts that were unknown at the time of its revelation, the Quran presents insights that could not have been accessed by an unlettered man in the deserts of Arabia. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was not a historian, a scientist, or a scholar of worldly affairs, yet the words revealed to him foretold events with stunning accuracy. This alone raises an undeniable question. How could these revelations contain such precise details about the future unless they came from a divine source? Today, we live in an era of information where historical records and scientific advancements allow us to verify claims with unprecedented accuracy. And as we examine the prophecies within the Quran, we find overwhelming evidence that supports its divine nature. Some of these prophecies were fulfilled within the prophet's own lifetime, while others materialized decades or even centuries later. These signs serve as a testimony to the timelessness of the Quran and the infinite knowledge of Allah. Skeptics have long argued that religious texts rely on broad, self-fulfilling predictions, yet the Quran's prophecies are unlike anything found in human literature. They are not cryptic riddles open to endless interpretation, but clear, specific revelations that have stood the test of time. Take, for example, the fall and subsequent rise of the Roman Empire, an event that seemed entirely impossible when it was revealed. At the time, the mighty Byzantine Romans had been crushed by the Persian Empire, their territories seized, their military humiliated. Yet the Quran declared with certainty that they would soon reclaim victory, a prophecy that was met with disbelief. However, history confirms that within the exact time frame stated in the Quran, the Romans did achieve an astonishing comeback. But why does this matter? Why should we reflect on events that have already passed? Because fulfilled prophecies reaffirm the truth of the Quran, strengthening our faith and deepening our understanding of Allah's wisdom. They remind us that the world is not ruled by chance, but by divine decree. Every event, every rise and fall of nations, every discovery, and every transformation in human history is part of a greater plan. The Quran is not merely a book of laws and spirituality. It is a living miracle, a testament to the Creator's absolute knowledge of the past, present, and future. When we witness the realization of its words, we are not just reading history, we are seeing proof of the divine unfolding before our very eyes. The Quran is unlike any other book in existence. It is not merely a collection of spiritual teachings or moral guidelines, nor is it a historical account or philosophical discourse. It is a living miracle, a divine revelation that transcends time and space, offering guidance to humanity in every era. More than 14 centuries have passed since it was revealed to an unlettered man in the deserts of Arabia, yet its impact continues to shape the lives of billions. It is unmatched in its depth, its eloquence, and its ability to speak directly to the human soul. No other text has been preserved with such precision, its words remaining unchanged since the moment they were first revealed. This alone is an extraordinary feat, but even more astonishing is the fact that within its pages lie prophecies that have unfolded exactly as foretold, serving as undeniable evidence of its divine origin. Prophecies in religious texts are not unheard of, but what makes the Quran's prophecies unique is their clarity, accuracy, and specificity. Many ancient texts contain predictions that are vague, metaphorical, or so broad that they can be applied to any number of historical events. The Quran, however, provides precise details about the future, often defying human logic and expectations. These are not coincidences, nor are they self-fulfilling prophecies engineered by later generations. They are divine revelations that stand as proof of Allah's absolute knowledge, encompassing all that was, all that is, and all that will ever be. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Quran's prophecies is that they often describe events that seemed impossible at the time of revelation. They spoke of victories in the face of utter defeat, of the preservation of a tyrant's body when no one could have conceived such a thing, of scientific realities that would only be discovered centuries later. When these prophecies were first revealed, they were met with skepticism, even outright mockery, by those who could not fathom how such events could come to pass. Yet history has confirmed, time and again, that every word spoken in the Quran is true. One such prophecy, recorded in Surah Ar-Rum, foretold the unlikely resurgence of the Byzantine Roman Empire after suffering a devastating defeat at the hands of the Persian Empire. To the people of that time, this was not just improbable, it was inconceivable. The Romans were on the brink of collapse, their military in ruins, their lands overtaken. Yet the Quran confidently declared that within a specific time frame, they would rise again and reclaim victory. The skeptics mocked this prediction, believing it to be nothing more than wishful thinking. However, as history unfolded, it became evident that the Quranic revelation was not based on speculation, nor was it a hopeful guess. It was the word of Allah, who alone has knowledge of the unseen. The Romans did indeed achieve an extraordinary comeback within the exact time frame mentioned in the Quran, silencing the doubters and proving the truth of the revelation. Beyond historical events, the Quran also contains knowledge of the natural world that was entirely beyond human comprehension at the time. It describes the expansion of the universe, the stages of embryonic development, and the protective nature of the Earth's atmosphere, concepts that modern science has only recently confirmed. These revelations were not the product of human discovery or observation. They were divinely revealed to a man who had no access to scientific knowledge. This alone is a testament to the Quran's miraculous nature. The purpose of these prophecies is not simply to impress or to prove divine knowledge for the sake of argument. They serve as reminders that the Quran is not bound by the limitations of human intellect. They demonstrate that history, nature, and the very fabric of existence itself unfold according to the will of the Creator. When we reflect on these prophecies and their fulfillment, we are reminded of Allah's infinite wisdom and power. They strengthen our faith, deepen our conviction, and inspire us to place our trust in the divine plan that governs all things. The Quran's unique nature lies not only in its prophetic accuracy, but also in its ability to transform hearts and minds. It does not merely predict events, it provides a framework for understanding them, offering guidance on how to navigate the challenges of life with faith and patience. It teaches us that no matter how dire circumstances may seem, no matter how impossible a situation appears, Allah's wisdom prevails. It calls us to reflect, to seek knowledge, and to approach the world with a sense of awe and humility. The fulfillment of its prophecies is not an end in itself, but a means of drawing closer to the Creator, recognizing that His words are truth and that His guidance is the ultimate source of clarity in an ever-changing world. When we consider the Quran's precise prophecies, its scientific insights, and its unparalleled preservation, we are left with only one conclusion. This book is not the work of human hands. It is a divine revelation, a miracle that continues to unfold before our very eyes. It stands as proof that Allah's knowledge encompasses all things, that His promises are unbreakable, and that His guidance is a light for those who seek the truth. No matter how much the world changes, no matter how much knowledge humanity acquires, the Quran remains an eternal testament to the wisdom and power of the One who created all things. At the time of the Quran's revelation, the world was caught in the midst of a colossal struggle between two great empires, the Byzantine Romans and the Persian Sassanids. For centuries, these two superpowers had engaged in fierce conflicts, each seeking dominance over the other. However, in the early 7th century, a series of devastating battles left the Roman Empire in ruins. The Persians, under the leadership of King Khosrow II, launched a series of successful military campaigns that crushed the Romans, seizing vast territories and reducing their empire to a shadow of its former glory. The loss was so severe that many believed it was only a matter of time before the Roman Empire would disappear entirely. Cities fell, armies were obliterated, and the once mighty Byzantines found themselves on the brink of collapse. In this moment of absolute despair, the Quran revealed a prophecy that seemed beyond belief. In Surah Ar-Rum, Allah declared that although the Romans had been defeated, they would soon achieve victory within a specific time frame, between 3 and 9 years. This revelation was met with ridicule by the Quraysh, the polytheistic leaders of Makkah, who saw it as an impossible claim. The situation was dire. The Romans had lost Jerusalem, their strongholds had crumbled, and their emperor Heraclius had fled to the most remote corners of his empire in a desperate attempt to preserve what little remained. No rational observer of that time would have believed in a Roman resurgence. From a human perspective, the empire was finished. The Quraysh, who opposed the Muslims, took this prophecy as an opportunity to mock them. They taunted the believers, challenging them to justify such an outrageous claim. The polytheists favored the Persians in this struggle, as they were fire worshippers and thus closer to the Quraysh in belief than the monotheistic Christians of the Byzantine Empire. They saw the fall of the Romans as an affirmation that their own way of life would prevail over Islam. The idea that the Byzantines, humiliated and broken, could ever rise again seemed laughable. Yet the Quran's words were clear, and the believers trusted in Allah's promise. Despite the overwhelming odds, history unfolded exactly as the Quran foretold. In 622 CE, Emperor Heraclius began one of the most remarkable military comebacks in history. Rather than surrender to despair, he meticulously planned a counteroffensive. He restructured the Roman army, secured alliances, and launched a daring campaign to reclaim lost territories. In a series of strategic victories, he led his forces deep into Persian territory, striking back with astonishing precision. Against all expectations, the Romans not only regained their lost lands, but decisively defeated the Persians. By 627 CE, in the Battle of Nineveh, Heraclius achieved a decisive victory that shattered Persian dominance. The once mighty Sassanid Empire crumbled from within, weakened by internal strife and political instability. Within a few years, the Persians sued for peace, their dreams of conquest utterly crushed. The Roman Empire had not only survived but emerged victorious, exactly as the Quran had predicted. The prophecy had been fulfilled within the precise time frame mentioned, leaving no doubt about its divine origin. But the prophecy did not end with the Romans' victory alone. The Quran also stated that on the day of their triumph, the believers would rejoice. This was not just a reference to the Romans, but to the Muslims themselves, who were enduring persecution in Makkah at the time the revelation was given. The believers were struggling to survive, facing relentless oppression at the hands of the Quraysh. The idea of their own victory seemed just as far-fetched as that of the Romans. Yet, in a stunning parallel to the Byzantine comeback, the Muslims too would experience a miraculous triumph. In 624 CE, around the same time that the Romans began regaining their strength, the Muslims found themselves in a battle that would change the course of history. At the plains of Badr, the Prophet Muhammad and his small group of followers faced off against a vastly superior Quraysh army. The odds were overwhelmingly against them. Outnumbered, poorly equipped, and militarily inexperienced, they were expected to be wiped out. Yet, through divine assistance, they achieved a stunning victory. The Quraysh were defeated, their morale shattered, and the Muslims proved that they were a force to be reckoned with. This was the moment the believers rejoiced, as the Quran had foretold. Both the Romans and the Muslims, against all odds, had emerged victorious in their respective battles. The fulfillment of this prophecy is one of the most remarkable proofs of the Quran's divine nature. It was not merely a hopeful statement or a vague prediction that could be applied to any event. It was precise, specifying the exact timeline within which the Romans would reclaim victory. It defied all human expectations, for even the most knowledgeable political or military experts of the time would never have foreseen such an outcome. Only Allah, the knower of all things, could have revealed such knowledge. This prophecy carries profound lessons beyond its historical significance. It teaches that no matter how desperate a situation may seem, no matter how overwhelming the odds, Allah's plan is always unfolding in ways that human beings cannot comprehend. Just as the Romans were saved from complete destruction, just as the early Muslims rose from persecution to dominance, every believer is reminded that patience, perseverance, and faith will always lead to triumph in the end. No force in the world can alter what Allah has decreed, and history itself is a testament to the absolute truth of His words. The victory of the Romans also serves as a lesson in humility and trust in divine wisdom. Those who mocked the prophecy were left speechless when it came true. Those who placed their faith in human calculations and worldly knowledge saw their assumptions crumble. Meanwhile, those who trusted in the Quran witnessed the power of Allah's promise with their own eyes. This event is not just a relic of history, but a living sign for all generations that Allah's knowledge is absolute and His words never fail. The rise of the Roman Empire from the brink of ruin is more than a historical event. It is a testament to the miraculous nature of the Quran. It reminds us that Allah controls the affairs of nations, that victory and defeat are in His hands alone. It is a sign that faith is not blind belief, but trust in the truth that has been confirmed time and time again. For those who seek certainty, for those who wonder if the Quran truly holds divine knowledge, this prophecy stands as undeniable proof. It calls upon every soul to reflect, to ponder, and to acknowledge the wisdom of the Creator who revealed His words not just for the people of the past, but for all of humanity until the end of time. The Quran is not merely a book of spiritual guidance. It is a revelation that transcends time, offering knowledge that continues to astonish humanity. While its primary purpose is to guide mankind toward righteousness and faith, it also contains insights into the natural world that were completely beyond human understanding at the time of its revelation. The presence of scientifically accurate statements in a book revealed more than 1,400 years ago, long before the advent of modern science, serves as compelling evidence of its divine origin. These verses were not based on the observations or theories of the time, but have been confirmed centuries later by scientific discoveries, proving once again that the knowledge contained within the Quran is far beyond human capability. One of the most remarkable examples of scientific knowledge in the Quran is its reference to the expanding universe. In Surah Ad-Dariyat, Allah states, "And we have built the heaven with might, and indeed we are expanding it." This revelation, made at a time when the prevailing belief was that the universe was static and unchanging, aligns perfectly with what modern cosmology has discovered. In the early 20th century, astronomers such as Edwin Hubble confirmed that galaxies are moving away from each other, proving that the universe is indeed expanding. This groundbreaking discovery forms the foundation of modern astrophysics. Yet it was described in the Quran over a millennium before telescopes and advanced calculations could provide evidence. Another profound scientific truth revealed in the Quran relates to the protective nature of the Earth's atmosphere. The Quran describes the sky as a protected ceiling in Surah Al-Anbiya. Today, we understand that the Earth's atmosphere serves multiple protective functions. It shields us from harmful solar radiation, prevents meteors from reaching the surface, and regulates the planet's temperature, making life possible. This knowledge was completely unknown in the 7th century, yet the Quran describes it with precise accuracy, demonstrating an understanding that could not have been attained by human means at the time. Embryology is another area where the Quran presents knowledge that was centuries ahead of its time. In Surah Al-Mu'minun, Allah describes the development of the human embryo in stages. We created man from an extract of clay. Then we made him a drop in a firm lodging. Then we made the drop into a clinging clot. Then we made the clot into a lump. Then we made the lump into bones, and we covered the bones with flesh. Then we developed him into another creation. These stages align exactly with what modern embryology has discovered about fetal development. The process by which a fertilized egg develops into a clinging embryo, then forms bones before being covered with muscle, was completely unknown to scientists until the advent of advanced microscopy in the 20th century. Yet, this information was detailed in the Quran long before such tools existed. The Quran also describes phenomena that occur deep within the ocean, places that were inaccessible to humans at the time of its revelation. In Surah An-Nur, Allah speaks of the layers of darkness found in the depths of the sea, describing them as being covered by waves upon waves, with clouds above them. Today, marine scientists have confirmed that deep ocean layers experience total darkness beyond a certain depth due to the absorption and scattering of sunlight. Moreover, the mention of waves upon waves aligns with the discovery of internal waves beneath the ocean surface, a phenomenon only recently observed using modern technology. These internal waves exist between layers of water with different densities and act much like surface waves, a reality that was unknown to people of the past. Even the process of rain formation and the cycle of water on Earth are described in remarkable detail. The Quran explains how winds push clouds together, how rain emerges from them, and how water is stored within the earth to be brought forth again. These processes are now well understood through meteorology, but in the 7th century, they were a mystery. The Quran's precise descriptions indicate knowledge far beyond what was known at the time, pointing to a source of information that could only come from the Creator of the heavens and the earth. The accuracy of these scientific details in the Quran is not a coincidence, nor is it the result of human speculation. The people of the Arabian Peninsula had no means of observing embryonic development, no understanding of atmospheric layers, no knowledge of the expansion of the universe, and no insight into the depths of the ocean. Yet the Quran speaks of these realities with absolute certainty, long before modern science could verify them. The logical conclusion is that this knowledge comes from a source beyond human intellect, from the one who created all things and is fully aware of their workings. The presence of these scientific facts in the Quran is not meant to replace scientific inquiry, but rather to demonstrate that divine revelation and knowledge of the natural world are not in conflict. If anything, these verses encourage further exploration, urging mankind to reflect on creation and seek understanding. The more we uncover about the universe, the more we realize how intricately designed it is, reinforcing the idea that everything operates according to divine wisdom. While scientific discoveries continue to evolve, the truths in the Quran remain unchanged, proving time and again that its knowledge is timeless and its message eternal. For those who reflect, these scientific insights provide yet another reason to believe in the divine nature of the Quran. They confirm that the words revealed to Prophet Muhammad are not the musings of a man, nor the accumulated knowledge of his time, but rather a revelation from the one who created all things and knows their secrets. Every scientific truth that aligns with the Quran serves as a reminder that faith and knowledge go hand in hand, that understanding the world around us only strengthens our belief in its creator. The more science progresses, the more it confirms what was already written, proving that the Quran is not merely a historical book, but a living miracle that continues to reveal its wisdom to every generation. The Quran is the only religious scripture in the world that has remained unchanged since the day it was revealed. Despite the passage of more than 14 centuries, not a single word, letter, or verse has been altered, lost, or added. It stands as a living testament to divine preservation, fulfilling the very promise made within its own pages. Unlike other religious texts that have undergone revisions, translations, and modifications over time, the Quran exists today exactly as it was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad. This extraordinary preservation is not the result of human effort alone, but is a miracle in itself, ensuring that the guidance of Allah remains accessible to all generations. At the time of revelation, the Quran was not compiled in book form, but was memorized by the Prophet's companions and recorded on materials such as palm leaves, bones, and parchment. The oral tradition played a central role in its preservation, as many of the Prophet's followers committed it to memory with meticulous precision. The Arabs of that era had a strong oral culture, and memorization of poetry and prose was highly regarded. The Quran, with its eloquence and rhythmic structure, was designed in such a way that it was easy to memorize and recite. This tradition of memorization continues to this day, with millions of Muslims around the world memorizing the entire Quran, ensuring that even if every written copy were lost, the Quran could be completely reconstructed from memory alone. After the passing of the Prophet, his companions took great care in compiling the Quran into a single manuscript. Under the leadership of Abu Bakr, the first caliph of Islam, the verses were gathered into a complete text to prevent any loss. Later, during the caliphate of Uthman, copies of this official compilation were sent to different regions of the expanding Muslim world to ensure uniformity. This was a crucial step in safeguarding the Quran from any alterations, as it prevented the possibility of variations emerging due to regional differences in recitation. To this day, the Uthmanic script remains the foundation for all copies of the Quran, and every version printed around the world traces back to this original manuscript. While many religious texts have been subject to translation, reinterpretation, and modification over time, the Quran has remained untouched in its original language, classical Arabic. Unlike other scriptures that exist in multiple versions with discrepancies, the Quran has remained consistent across centuries and continents. Linguists and scholars attest to the remarkable preservation of its language, which has remained unchanged, even as Arabic itself has evolved over time. This linguistic preservation is unparalleled, ensuring that every reader today is engaging with the exact words revealed more than 1,400 years ago. The Quran itself declares that Allah has taken upon himself the responsibility of preserving it, stating, "Indeed, it is we who sent down the Quran, and indeed, we will be its guardian." Surah Al-Hijr 15:9. This divine promise has been fulfilled in a way that defies human expectations. While other scriptures have suffered from loss, revision, and translation errors, the Quran remains unaltered, protected from both human interference and historical distortion. The meticulous transmission of the Quran through memorization and written manuscripts has ensured that not a single letter has been changed. Even attempts to alter the Quran have failed. Throughout history, various individuals and groups have tried to introduce fabricated versions, but each attempt has been swiftly recognized and rejected. The memorization of the Quran by millions of people has acted as a safeguard against any form of corruption. Any attempt to introduce a change, even in a single word, would immediately be identified by scholars and reciters. The Quran's preservation is not just a claim, it is a reality that can be verified by comparing ancient manuscripts with modern copies. The consistency remains astonishing, further reinforcing the Quran's status as a divine revelation. In the digital age, the Quran's preservation has extended even further. With millions of copies in print, audio recordings, and digital versions available worldwide, its words are more accessible than ever. The rise of technology has only strengthened its preservation, ensuring that it can never be lost. Muslims from every corner of the world recite the same words, whether they are in Africa, Asia, Europe, or the Americas. This unity in the recitation and text of the Quran is something unparalleled in any other scripture or literary work. The significance of this preservation extends beyond historical and linguistic aspects. It serves as proof of the Quran's divine origin. If the Quran had been altered, distorted, or lost over time, it would raise questions about its authenticity. Instead, its unchanging nature provides certainty that it remains exactly as revealed. This consistency has allowed the Quran to remain a source of guidance, wisdom, and inspiration for millions across generations, undiluted by human interference. For believers, the Quran's preservation is not just an academic fact, but a spiritual assurance. It means that the words recited in prayer today are the same words recited by the Prophet and his companions. It means that every teaching, every command, and every message remains exactly as Allah intended. In a world where texts, ideologies, and philosophies constantly change, the Quran stands firm as an unaltered beacon of truth. Its preservation is a miracle, a sign for all of humanity, and a reminder that Allah's word will never be lost. The story of Pharaoh and his pursuit of Prophet Musa is one of the most well-known narratives in history. It is a tale of arrogance, tyranny, and divine justice, recorded in various religious texts. However, the Quran provides a unique revelation that no other scripture mentions, a prophecy regarding the fate of Pharaoh's body. While the general story of Pharaoh's downfall is familiar, the Quran makes a specific claim that stands as one of the most remarkable fulfilled prophecies in human history. Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt, had defied the message of Allah despite witnessing numerous signs and miracles. His oppression of the Israelites, his arrogance, and his refusal to accept the truth led to his ultimate destruction. When Prophet Musa led his people out of Egypt, Pharaoh, in his relentless pursuit of power, chased after them with his army. As Musa and the Israelites reached the Red Sea, they were trapped, with no escape in sight. It was at this moment that Allah commanded the sea to part, creating a path for the believers to pass through safely. As soon as they reached the other side, Pharaoh and his army followed, only for the sea to close upon them, drowning them instantly. This event is widely known, but what makes the Quran's account extraordinary is a specific statement made about Pharaoh's body. In Surah Yunus, Allah declares, "Today, we will save your body so that you may be a sign for those who come after you." But indeed, many among the people are heedless of our signs. Quran 1092. This verse makes a startling claim. While Pharaoh would drown, his body would be preserved as a sign for future generations. This was an astonishing statement, considering that drowned bodies typically decay or are lost at sea. Historically, many rulers and warriors perished in battle or natural disasters, and their remains were never found. Yet, the Quran, revealed over 1,400 years ago, explicitly stated that Pharaoh's body would be saved and serve as a lesson for mankind. At the time of the Quran's revelation, this prophecy could not have been verified. There was no known preserved body of Pharaoh, and there was no means of proving whether such a thing had occurred. For centuries, this verse remained a mystery, with no historical evidence to confirm it. However, in the late 19th century, archaeologists made a discovery that stunned the world. The mummy of Pharaoh Ramses II, one of Egypt's most powerful rulers, was found in the Valley of the Kings. Further studies and examinations of the body revealed signs of asphyxiation consistent with drowning. This finding aligned perfectly with the Quran's statement, providing physical proof of an event that had been described in Scripture over a millennium earlier. What makes this discovery even more remarkable is that when the Quran was revealed, no one in Arabia had access to Egyptian mummies. The knowledge of mummification had been lost to history, and the tombs of the pharaohs had been buried under the sands of time. The Arabs of the 7th century had no way of knowing that the body of Pharaoh would ever be found, let alone preserved. Yet the Quran made this precise claim with absolute certainty. The fact that a drowned body, which would normally decompose within days, was found intact thousands of years later is a phenomenon that defies ordinary expectations. The meticulous preservation of Ramses II's body stands as an undeniable fulfillment of the Quran's words. Further investigations by modern scientists have reinforced the Quranic prophecy. In 1975, the mummy of Ramses II was transported to France for further examination by medical experts and archaeologists. Dr. Maurice Bucaille, a French physician who conducted extensive research on the mummy, was astonished by the findings. The autopsy revealed that the pharaoh had died suddenly, with evidence of drowning and water retention in his lungs. What baffled scientists even more was that the body had been remarkably well preserved, despite its exposure to water. Dr. Bucaille, who had no prior connection to Islamic studies, was so overwhelmed by the accuracy of the Quranic verse that he later wrote a book detailing his findings, concluding that the scientific evidence aligned perfectly with the Quran's account. The discovery of Pharaoh's body is not just an archaeological triumph. It is a sign for those who reflect. It demonstrates that the words of the Quran are not mere stories or allegories, but divine truths that withstand the test of time. The preservation of Pharaoh's body serves as a reminder of the consequences of arrogance and disbelief. Despite his wealth, power, and status, Pharaoh could not escape his fate. His body, once a symbol of his might, now lies lifeless in a museum, a permanent warning to those who reject the truth. The very thing he cherished, his power, was stripped from him in an instant, and today he is remembered not for his greatness, but for his downfall. This fulfilled prophecy also highlights the Quran's unparalleled accuracy. How could a man living in the 7th century, with no access to Egyptian historical records or scientific knowledge, make such a specific claim? How could he have known that Pharaoh's body would be discovered, let alone preserved? The only logical explanation is that the Quran is not the product of human knowledge, but divine revelation. The discovery of Pharaoh's mummy provides undeniable proof that the Quran contains knowledge beyond human capability, reinforcing its status as the word of Allah. The lesson of Pharaoh is one of humility, reflection, and submission to divine will. His story serves as a warning against arrogance and defiance, showing that no amount of power or status can protect one from the decree of Allah. It is a reminder that history is not just a collection of past events, but a living testament to the truth of divine revelation. The Quran does not merely narrate stories. It presents evidence, prophecies, and signs that continue to unfold before our very eyes. The preservation of Pharaoh's body stands as one of the most compelling of these signs, a miracle that challenges skeptics and strengthens the faith of believers. The words of the Quran remain as relevant today as they were at the time of their revelation. While empires rise and fall, while knowledge advances and civilizations change, the Quran's truth remains constant. The story of Pharaoh is not just a historical episode. It is an eternal reminder of divine justice, proof of the unseen, and a call for mankind to reflect. Those who seek the truth need only look at the world around them, for the signs of Allah's existence and power are everywhere. The discovery of Pharaoh's body is but one of many, a lesson preserved not just in the pages of the Quran, but in history itself. The rise of Islam is one of the most extraordinary transformations in history, beginning with a small persecuted group in Makkah and culminating in a civilization that would shape the world. In the early years of the Prophet Muhammad's mission, the Quraysh, the most powerful tribe in Makkah, vehemently opposed the message of Islam. They mocked the Prophet, tortured his followers, and did everything in their power to suppress the new faith. To them, Islam was a threat to their status, their economic influence, and their traditional beliefs. The Muslims were few in number, had no political power, and were subjected to relentless persecution. By any worldly standard, their movement should have been crushed before it could take root. Yet the Quran foretold not only their survival, but their ultimate victory over the Quraysh, a claim that seemed impossible at the time. At the height of their oppression, the Prophet and his companions were forced to leave Mecca and migrate to Medina, where they established a small but growing Muslim community. Even in exile, they were not left in peace. The Quraysh pursued them, launching military campaigns to eradicate them completely. The odds were overwhelmingly against the Muslims. They lacked resources, had no army comparable to the Quraysh, and were seen as an insignificant force. But the Quran carried a promise, declaring that Islam would prevail despite the opposition. It was not just a hopeful aspiration, but a divine decree, one that seemed unthinkable given the circumstances. The first major turning point came at the Battle of Badr. The Quraysh, confident in their numerical and military superiority, marched with a force 3 times larger than the Muslim army, expecting an easy victory. Yet against all odds, the Muslims emerged victorious. This battle was not only a physical triumph, but a psychological one. It proved that the tide was turning and that divine support was with the believers. This victory sent shockwaves through Arabia, challenging the perception that the Quraysh were invincible. However, they did not accept defeat easily and continued their campaigns against the Muslims, determined to crush them once and for all. Years of struggle followed, with battles, treaties, and betrayal shaping the conflict. The Quraysh remained the dominant force in Arabia, but their influence began to wane. The Muslims, once outcasts, gained strength, alliances, and credibility. Then, in the 8th year after the migration, the moment arrived that no one had foreseen: the conquest of Mecca. The Prophet and his followers marched into the city with overwhelming force, and the Quraysh, realizing they could not resist, surrendered. The Kaaba, once filled with idols, was purified, and Islam became the dominant faith in the region. The Quran's prophecy had been fulfilled with stunning precision. The once persecuted believers became victorious, and the very people who had sought to destroy Islam found themselves submitting to its truth. This triumph was not merely a military success, but a testament to divine intervention, proving once again that Allah's promises never fail. The fulfillment of Quranic prophecies carries profound lessons that extend beyond history, providing guidance, reassurance, and a deeper understanding of divine wisdom. These prophecies are not just remarkable predictions, but reminders of the power and knowledge of Allah, showing that history unfolds according to His will. They serve as proof of the Quran's divine origin, reinforcing that its words are not human speculation, but divine revelation. One of the most significant lessons is the certainty of Allah's promises. When the Quran foretold events such as the Roman victory after their crushing defeat, the preservation of Pharaoh's body, or the triumph of Islam over the Quraysh, these were not vague predictions, but precise revelations that came to pass. This reaffirms the unshakable truth of the Quran. For believers, this is a reminder that just as these prophecies were fulfilled, every promise of Allah regarding this world and the hereafter will also come to pass. The promise of justice, reward for righteousness, and ultimate accountability is as certain as the fulfilled prophecies we have already witnessed. Another lesson is that no matter how dire circumstances may seem, Allah's plan is always in motion. The Quran revealed prophecies in moments of extreme difficulty when the odds appeared impossible. The Romans were seemingly finished, the early Muslims were a persecuted minority, and Pharaoh ruled with unchecked power. Yet, each of these situations unfolded exactly as Allah decreed, showing that His knowledge is beyond human perception. This teaches patience and trust in divine wisdom, reminding believers that hardship is temporary and that Allah's help often arrives when least expected. The transience of worldly power is another crucial lesson. Empires that seemed invincible crumbled, and rulers who considered themselves untouchable were brought low. The rise and fall of civilizations are not random, but part of Allah's divine order. This serves as a warning against arrogance and a reminder that true success lies not in wealth or status, but in submission to the Creator. Power, dominance, and influence are temporary, but faith and righteousness endure. These fulfilled prophecies also encourage reflection and increase conviction in the truth of Islam. They demonstrate that the Quran is not bound by time, but speaks to every generation. They call upon people to reflect on the evidence before them, strengthening faith and inspiring a deeper connection with Allah. In understanding these lessons, believers are reminded to trust in divine guidance, remain steadfast in faith, and recognize that Allah's knowledge encompasses all things, past, present, and future. The fulfilled prophecies of the Quran are more than historical accounts. They are living proof of divine revelation. Each one serves as a reminder that the Quran is not the work of a human mind, but the word of Allah, containing knowledge that no person could have predicted. From the rise of the Roman Empire, after its crushing defeat to the preservation of Pharaoh's body, these events demonstrate the absolute truth of the Quran. They are signs for those who reflect, reminders that history and nature unfold according to the divine will. They strengthen faith, deepen understanding, and reaffirm that every promise made by Allah will come to pass. The lesson in these prophecies is not just to marvel at their accuracy, but to recognize the wisdom behind them. They show that no power in the world is permanent except that of Allah. The mighty fall and the weak rise when He decrees it. Oppression does not last forever, and even the most impossible circumstances can be overturned. For those facing hardship, these stories provide hope, teaching patience and trust in divine timing. They remind us that while the future may seem uncertain, Allah's plan is always unfolding in ways beyond human comprehension. The Quran is not just a book of the past, but a guide for every generation. It speaks to the human soul, offering lessons, warnings, and reassurances that are as relevant today as they were centuries ago. The fulfillment of its prophecies should inspire people to look deeper into its message, to seek understanding, and to strengthen their faith. For those who doubt, it is an invitation to explore, to question, and to reflect on the undeniable truth that continues to unfold before our eyes. The call to action is clear. Reflect on the Quran, engage with its message, and recognize the signs that have been preserved for humanity's benefit. Share its wisdom, increase your knowledge, and strengthen your connection with Allah. Let these fulfilled prophecies be a motivation to deepen faith and embrace the guidance that has remained unchanged for over 1,000 years. The Quran is a gift, a miracle, and a roadmap to truth. The choice to follow it lies with each individual. Let these lessons not be forgotten, but serve as a constant reminder that the ultimate success is not found in this world, but in drawing closer to the Creator who has given us these signs.